And so by reviving a couture system, maybe we also revive the designer's power. If everybody becomes that much more powerful, then we're back to the 70s or 60s, when designers actually have incredible clout. Okay? Now, what is good for production may not be good for the planet. What is good for the market may not be good for the client. What is good for our well-being may not be good for the planet. And what's good for the planet anyway? The planet folds itself around stuff. Right? An asteroid hits, and 2 million years later, well, there's life on the planet. You know, we're fine. The only thing the planet doesn't seem to be able to handle is shopping bags and styrofoam. But maybe one of these days it will. Maybe it's all about. Maybe the whole purpose of our evolution was to create a plastic island in the Pacific. It's possible. It's possible. But the planet folds itself around, so it's not maybe about the planet. Maybe it's about your children. Maybe it's about your grandchildren. The planet will probably be fine. It'll be here when we're gone. Now, the sixth gate is about communicating all this stuff. And of course, that's where we come back to the word of education, when we have to sell people the design. We might have to educate. We might have to have our facts completely straight and be able to tell them why it's important that we're doing what we're doing. If we can design things well enough, if it can be haute couture au candy wrapper, nobody's going to ask about the candy wrapper. We may have to educate. And we make it fun, we make it interesting. We tell them why we're doing this. But of course, the urgency of the matter might convince them as well. But urgency and fun are often not things that go well together. And it would seem that in terms of fashion, fun does tend to win. All right? So a little bit of social engineering there might come into play. Final gate, what to think about here. Now, I've been talking about artisan, 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 but of course, we are a culture of factories. We're a culture of mass production. So what do we have to work with here? What can we play with? We can consider the energy use. We can choose to work with people who are conscious of this. We can choose to use solar power. We can choose the ones that don't use chemicals, or at least tell us what chemicals they're using, or are ready to discuss the chemicals they're using. And of course, then there's the whole idea of the people involved. Ecology is not just about panda bears. It's about people. We are ecology. We are part of this, for better or for worse. So how we treat the people in those factories, in terms of fair trade, in terms of a good wage, in terms of feeding them maybe twice a day, for goodness sake. Maybe that's also a way of being ecologically sound. People are part of the ecology. And of course, the big one is minimizing transportation, that the materials are not being shipped from Georgia to China, from China to Vietnam to India, from India to South Africa, and then back to a mall 3 blocks down from where the cotton started in the first place. All right? This might be the most radical change you will have to make when you have influence in this business. All right? Make these choices, sell the product a little bit more dearly, pay people a slightly better wage, make it work for as many people as you can. Okay? Thank you. Questions? Don't get trampled in a rush. Okay?
No questions?
Heat it up, yes. It's getting rather warm in here. We have our own little global warming in here. Yes?
I think on some level I kind of disagree with your model for haute couture.
Okay.
And the one thing you mentioned was being worn once.
Yes.
So doesn't that go against the recycle, repair, reuse?
I would what I meant by that was that we should not let that stop us from creating something from recycled materials that will only be worn once. At least it's being worn once. What you often hear is that, oh, we can't do that because it's only wearable for one time. But you are recycling something to be worn once instead of something else, right?
Okay.
So what I meant by that was that should not be something that stops us, because in any other case, the couture garment would possibly only be worn once anyway.
Right.
So
it's less bad.
It's less bad, yes. So I was just, I meant to ask that. Okay, thank you for clearing that up. That's, yeah.
Okay.
Not to let that stop us was the point. Of course, if it can be worn more often, it should be worn more often. But that should not be something that puts the brakes on.
If you read about wardrobes and women who continuously purchase couture,
Yes.
they do buy to wear things. Really.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not talking about the actresses who did loan dresses.
No.
But
I'm meaning, like I say, that might have been less clear than it should have been. I worry about the problem of not doing it because it's not something that will be worn for 20 years or something like that. I think every little bit helps. If we can create things that people will wear or own for decades, more the better. Something like a candy wrapper jacket I doubt would be worn more than a couple of times. I still think it's a good idea to do it.
there is some craft place in, I don't know if it's Venezuela or Guatemala, where they use old gum wrappers and they plasticize them and make them into little persons.
Okay.
I bought one, so I can bring it to show you.
Great. That'd be, yeah.
It's sold in major airports. So it's
All right.
just hanging around, looking for something to do.
Great.
Go out and plasticize.
Plasticized
Gum
gum.
wrap.
Why not? You see, the thing is, if we can make this stuff cool, we've won. That's the part that I think is critical. But no, of course, it would be lovely if we could design things that are recycled and will be worn for decades. Yeah.
Usually, I feel like the restructuring of like the fashion industry, I feel like a lot of times they need to hit rock bottom for such a large change like this to happen.
Yeah.
Do you think that like the industry would actually accept this at such a time where like fast fashion is like running everything?
Well, that's kind of my point, was why we have to start with education. I think that in reality, where this has to come from is groups such as this who come into the industry thinking we are going to change it in this direction. I don't think the current business climate is a very revolutionary one, if that's where you're going. No, I don't. But that's why I say it has to start with education, and that's why I feel that I have a responsibility to put the word out. And I think, your children and your grandchildren will benefit if we do. But no, I think if we were going to work with the current business model, we'd have to just get the torches and pitchforks.